Well, hello, friends at Beyt Tikkun, and hello, Reb Learner. Um, it's a great pleasure to get to join you. Obviously, I wish I was there in person. Instead, I'm in Eastern Europe, um, and and on the edge of the trauma in the Ukraine, and of course, with the chance to reflect on the horrors of the 20th century as well as the 21st. Um, and as we do that, this is the moment, this season of reflection, of atonement, to to be thinking hard about where we are right now and what we are called to do. Um, this has obviously been a difficult and painful season around the world. The spate of horrible climate trauma that's ongoing everywhere is hard to keep watching. I confess, inured as I in some ways am to all of this after all these years of working on it, those pictures from Pakistan are almost too much for me to bear. 33 million people displaced. That's pretty darn near the population of California. Think about that for a minute. Everybody that you've ever seen in the boundaries of the Golden State out of their homes. And in this case, doubly hard because um, this is not trouble that they have caused. All of Pakistan has produced about 1% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere. The US has produced about 25% of those emissions. If there are 33 million people displaced in Pakistan, I'm just doing the math in my head. 25% of that's about 8 million people that are our responsibility, and of course, more coming all the time. The UN estimates that we could produce 1 billion climate refugees this century, which would dwarf even the number of displaced persons in the bloody century that I was born in. So, as usual, the only useful question is, what do we do? And what we do is fight in the ways that we can. Um, we had some success this year. Finally, 34 years and 50 days after James Hansen first testified before Congress, that Congress actually did something. They passed a bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, and thank you, Congress, for it. Is it a good bill? It is far from a perfect one. It's larded with all kinds of gifts for the fossil fuel industry and all kinds of compromises. That's what you would expect when you had to get Joe Manchin to sign off on it, and he's the man who's taken more money from the fossil fuel industry than anybody else in Washington. But despite that, it contains some powerful and useful things. Between that and the money that's come from Sacramento, I think that there's a real possibility that the clean energy revolution will be amped up, ramped up, pepped up. That infusion of money should translate directly into EV chargers and air source heat pumps and a lot of other things. And that's good news. But at the same time, we have to take care of the other half of this equation, which is shutting down the fossil fuel industry, and fast. The world's climate scientists tell us that we need to cut emissions in half by 2030 to have any chance of meeting the climate targets that we set at Paris. So, what does that mean? That means, well, going hard at the financial system that's propping up the fossil fuel industry. That's the work that increasingly we're doing. And when I say we, I mean youth activists all over the place, and now activists among older people. We've started this outfit called Third Act, which is about organizing on climate and democracy for people over the age of 60. I don't know if there's any people over the age of 60 in your congregation, though I'm guessing there might be. And if there are, we hope you'll join us. One of the campaigns that we're at work on and that young people are at work on is this campaign to try and hold the banks to account. We have remarkable research this year that demonstrates finally how much carbon your cash produces. If you keep your money in a mainstream bank in America, well, $125,000 on deposit, because it gets lent out to build pipelines and the like, produces more carbon than all the flying, cooking, heating, driving, cooling that an average American does in the course of a year. That's terrifying. On the other hand, it's also relatively easily remedied, which is why we're pushing these banks to change and to change fast. And you can play a big part in that. If you have a credit card from Chase, Citi, Wells Fargo, B of A, and you probably do because United and Costco and Amazon and people contract with them to create these cards, then we're going to ask you to cut them up in the spring. In March, we're going to have a big day of action around the country, and there'll be people cutting up credit cards underwater on dying coral reefs and against fire-scarred forests in California and outside bank branches and on and on and on. It'll be an important and interesting day and a way to try and take the reflection and atonement that we're about at this season and translate it into action that matters. So, I can't promise you that this is going to work. Can't promise you that anything's going to work. We're obviously not going to stop global warming. Too late for that. Our task now is to stop it short of the place where it cuts civilizations off at the knees. And even that, we don't know for sure if we're going to be able to do. There's a lot of physical momentum in this system. As I said, those pictures from Pakistan are a terrifying reminder of what happens when you heat the atmosphere. Warm air holds more water vapor than cold. That's why California can see so much evaporation, so much drought, and so much fire. And then that water is up in the air and it comes down in deluges like we've never seen before, not since Noah. So, if you've been keeping your powder dry, now is the time. We have to move, and we have to move fast, and we have to move together. So thank you guys for being faithful parts of this work. And I wish I could tell you that the weary get to rest, but no, we get to push on joyfully and powerfully and in unity. So I will look forward to seeing you all before long, and I hope in person. And in the meantime, just to say enormous thanks for all that you've already done and for all that you will do. Thank you.